So, what if the biggest thing holding you back from building real wealth isn't a lack of ambition, but actually too much of it? We're going to explore this really dangerous idea of never enough. It's a trap that even the most successful people fall into. And honestly, understanding it is the real key to living a rich life.
This quote comes from an incredible and totally true story. You've got two famous authors, Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller, at this ridiculously lavish party thrown by a billionaire. Vonnegut leans over to Heller and says, that billionaire host of ours, he makes more money in a single day than you've ever made from your masterpiece, Catch-22. And Heller's response is just perfect. He says, yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough. That one little word, enough, that's what this is all about.
Okay, so what actually happens when super successful people lose sight of what enough means? And we're not talking about people who are struggling. No, these are stories about people who had everything you could possibly want, and then they risk it all for more. Our first story is, well, it's pretty shocking. Let me introduce you to Rajat Gupta. His life story is like the American dream on steroids. He started as an orphan in Kolkata and climbed all the way to the absolute top, becoming the CEO of McKinsey. I mean, that's arguably the most prestigious consulting firm on the planet. He was a titan of industry, admired by everyone, and by any measure you can think of, he was extraordinarily wealthy. By 2008, his net worth was reportedly $100 million. Just let that sink in, $100 million. But for Gupta, it wasn't enough. He became obsessed with getting into the billionaire circle, and that one single desire, it was the cause of his downfall. His entire legacy was destroyed in just 16 seconds. Seriously. He was on the board of Goldman Sachs, and he got a call that Warren Buffett was about to invest $5 billion in the company. 16 seconds after he hung up the phone, he was on another call, illegally passing that tip to a hedge fund manager. He torched his reputation, his freedom, everything, all for a shot at more money that he absolutely did not need.
And then, of course, there's Bernie Madoff. We all know the name, but there's a part of his story that a lot of people miss. His giant Ponzi scheme wasn't some act of desperation. Madoff was already a Wall Street legend, running a totally legitimate and hugely profitable business.
I mean, just look at this comparison. His legal business was making him somewhere between $25 and $50 million a year, every single year. He was already unimaginably rich, but it still wasn't enough for him. So he gambled that legitimate success, his freedom, his family's name, all for an illegal scheme that ended up destroying thousands of lives, including his own.
Warren Buffett, as usual, kind of said it best. He was talking about this hedge fund called long-term capital management that just imploded. The traders, they were all geniuses, multimillionaires, but they took on so much risk that they lost every penny. Buffett just said they risked what they had and needed for what they didn't have and didn't need. It is foolish. It's just that simple.
So this begs the question, right? Why? Why do people who have so much, who have everything, risk it all just for a little bit more? Why isn't $100 million enough? Well, the psychology behind this chase is absolutely fascinating.
It really comes down to a deceptively simple little idea. We tend to think that happiness is all about our results, right? The more we achieve, the happier we'll be. But the real equation is this. Happiness equals your results minus your expectations. You can be wildly successful, but if your expectations are always just a little bit ahead of what you've achieved, you are literally wiring yourself to feel like you're failing. And that's the core of the problem, isn't it? As our success grows, our expectations don't just stay put. Nope, they rise right along with it, and sometimes they rise even faster. It creates this dangerous cycle, and it's all driven by one of the most powerful forces in human nature.
It's this thing called social comparison. It's our built-in, hardwired instinct to look around at what other people have and then measure ourselves against that. The problem? No matter how high you climb, you can always find someone who's higher. The goalposts for your own happiness are constantly being moved by other people who aren't even on your team.
Think of it like a ladder that just has no top rung. The person with $1 million looks up at the person with 10 million, who looks up at the billionaire, who then looks up at the guy with 10 billion. It is a battle that can never be won. It seems like the only way to really win the game of social comparison is to just refuse to play.
So, okay, let's pivot to the solution. How do we build a smarter, more durable way of thinking about ambition and wealth? This isn't about giving up, not at all. It's about being smart enough to know when to stop pushing your luck.
So how do you master this art of enough? Well, it all starts with learning the very hard skill of just stopping, of not moving your own goalposts for happiness. When you do that, you can consciously choose to step out of that toxic game of social comparison. And from there, you start to see that enough isn't about being weak or lazy, it's the wisdom to stop before you do something you'll regret. And all of this is built on one simple foundation, knowing what in your life is truly priceless.
And that really brings us to the most important takeaway from this whole thing. Some things are worth so much more than any amount of money, and you should never, ever put them on the table.
So what are these invaluable things? It's your reputation, it's your freedom, your independence. It's the love you get from your family and your friends. And, at the end of the day, it's your own happiness. Gupta and Madoff had every single one of these things, and they threw them all onto the gambling table. Realizing you have enough is the single best defense you have for protecting what actually matters.
So, we'll just leave you with this question to think about. Just take a second and think about your own life. You know what you have, and you know what you truly need. The most important financial skill isn't about getting more. It's about knowing when to stop. It's about deciding what, if anything, is worth risking it all for.